Empire.
Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today, I play my conversation with Dwayne Haskins when he talks about the impact Alex Smith has had on him. You may have read that story by me on ESPN.com recently, but this is the full interview. There was a lot of stuff on that story that I just couldn't get in, so I think it'll be a good listen for you. And then it's time for the mailbag. After 2 wins, it's not about therapy, but there is still a good deal of angst out there, if you know what I mean. And then, of course, it's on to Chef Mel. But first, my conversation with Dwayne Haskins. And you brought this up the other day about just the relationship you guys seem to have, or how he's been able to help you. So how has he been able to really, maybe, everybody's going to try and help you, but what's he been doing specifically to help you?
The thing with Alex is more so than anybody else, like his situation is very similar to mine. Going into San Fran and being an early draft pick, he was the first overall, I was the first overall, and not only that, but his struggle he went through his rookie year, and then this relationship coming from the same college coaches with Urban. So as a college kid, I used to hear so much stories about Alex, and now that I'm on his team, and Urban told me about him and everything about him and how he's such a great dude, and everything that I heard about him was true. Just from the time that I met him since I've been drafted, and then all the time he spent just trying to help me get ready to play and prepare, and what it takes to be a efficient starter in this league. And
I don't mean this as a disrespect to anybody, but you and Alex are in more comparable situations. So how important is that to hear him say, "Hey, this is what I went through, and this is you know what I mean?" Like
all the quarterbacks have great insight, and they all have their own different stories and things of that nature. But like you're saying, it's Alex. I feel is more relatable per se, his story compared to mine, and the things that he's been through would be easier to help me than say somebody else. So he's been really instrumental in that, and just being more hands-on with me as the season has gone on, and he's been a great resource for me.
So it sounds like it's just like you guys talk whenever you can. Nothing like, hey, every Tuesday we're getting lunch here, or just whenever.
He's here every day, so
right.
I mean, every day we talk. Our off days on Tuesday, he's here, and he gave me stuff like tips to do as far as studying or lifting on Tuesday instead of Wednesday, so you have more time to go over the practice script and stuff like that, and just little small things that as a young guy, everything gets scrambled, and you just get into a routine of what everyone tells you what to do, and then Alex is just trying to give me stuff that helped him that could possibly help me.
So what are some things maybe in the last month that he's helped you with, you've maybe changed? I mean, aside from you gave that example, is there anything else that you've changed, either done more of, done less of, to to maximize your time? Is there anything else that he's told you that's been?
He always tells me you do what you need to do, and he just gives me great stories, great experiences, and things that he's been through here, or in Kansas City, or in San Fran, or at Utah, and there's a lot of stuff, a lot of things that he's been through. The stories about Urban, all the same stuff that I've been through.
Right.
And it's great to be able to have somebody to relate to, and then on top of that, being a great guy, somebody that has a really good heart, and he's working on his own, getting back to being 100%, and every way he can, whether that's in meetings or it's in the practice field helping me, or just in the locker room, or calling him up, and
you give him a call once in a while.
Yeah.
And because he said, by and large, he stays away as much, maybe a little bit more from X's and O's, and does more on some other stuff, because it seems like approach at this level, you're going to get X's and O's from everybody, but he can help you with the other stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you have your coaches, and that's what your coaches are for. But just like what I'm saying, it's with certain tips, watch certain stuff this day, or come in earlier on this day so you can lift and do this, and and then you can find extra time to watch film with the coaches, or ask about the game plan, or getting a pre-workout before practice, just the stuff like that, that can get you ready to go.
So, like, are you coming earlier on a Tuesday, for example, or something? Or?
No, I mean, I always had a schedule, but instead, like, of coming in on Tuesday and then just going right to watching film, I'll just come in and I'll lift. That way I don't have to lift on Wednesday.
Okay.
And I'll have more time Wednesday to talk with Tim or talk with Kevin and get into the meat of the game plan and stuff. And just trying to find ways to maximize time.
One thing he talked about, too, for himself is learning how to work at this level, because it's different than college and you just going through different things. Did you have to learn that as well?
Yeah, I mean, work is work. I just think the detail in which you work or study has to be a little bit more detail oriented, just because of the time being spent on certain things. And in college you had a regimen and that's what you followed and that's what worked, and there wasn't much deviation from that. But you know, once you get into a routine here in the NFL and you're a professional, you do what you need to do to get yourself ready till you're ready to go. So whether that's getting a massage on Mondays and Fridays, or whether that's getting in a float take certain days, or getting dry needled, or getting a hot tub therapy, or staying 2 hours after Fridays when everyone leaves and goes home and go over the game plan, or like coming in instead of 9 o'clock, coming in at 8 on Tuesday to lift and stuff like that. Just like to find time to maximize the time that you have.
Has it helped on the field? Does that do like, I mean, even doing little things like that, do you notice a difference because you can spend a little bit more time here, or does it?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely just feel like it helps with this knowing more situational stuff and having more confidence, because you've went over the play instead of 6 times, 8 times, or 9 times, and this was something that you can find time to just to help with what's going on as far as watching this extra protection one more time, or going over this concept again, and then going against it versus different coverage that you might have not talked about before, just so that you're more prepared going into the game. And
he said one thing he knows with you and others have huddle command, cadence too, in the last month, that it's been better. Do you agree with that, and if so, why?
Yeah, I haven't been in huddle or had to like really go over cadences since high school. So in college it was always king set go, or ready set go. There wasn't any different cadence variations of going on one, going on two, going on dummy cadence, going on a quick count, going on a second color, or going on a whole bunch of different things that I didn't have to do. So it wasn't like it was something that I didn't know how to. It wasn't my best thing. And calling plays in the huddle in college, I only had to call a play maybe like 8 times throughout the game, just because of timeouts, or before a game starts, or after halftime. And just like, it's not like now you have to call a play every play, and just getting better with that, and emphasizing certain words in the play, and a certain tag. And you look at the guy who's getting tagged, and this is your tag, and stuff like that. And it just helps, because as a young guy, you're just remember to play. So
it's a lot of stuff.
Like, so like if you just go over play really fast, and the guy's like, "What do you say?" Or doesn't really know what I'm saying. Not doesn't know, but like it goes by fast, and the plays can be really wordy sometimes. And certain guys listen to certain stuff. So just knowing, just to slow it down. It's bunch right, Z left, pass 16, Wanda, Y Sith, Z nudge, X glow, and it's just stuff like that. Just so that it helps with the plays.
Did you? This is a little bit different, but with everything, because you're playing, so it's obviously you're gonna seem more energized and all that. But was it hard, because there was always so much attention focused on you and who wanted you, who didn't, whatever? Did that affect you, and did you feel like anybody treated you
pre-draft,
pre, post, whatever? Because all those stories are out there. Did it affect you?
What are you talking
Just like, because like the stories were like, well, who wanted Dwayne? Who wanted to draft him? You know what I mean? Like, did the coaches want to do it? Did Jay want whatever? Did any of that affect you? And did you ever feel that?
My understanding, everyone in the building wanted me. The other coaches wanted positions of need more than quarterback. That's something I can't control. The guys who make the decisions decided to pick me, and I'm here. And of course, like, I try the best I can to ignore that stuff. And
21 at the time. I mean,
so I'll try the best to know that stuff, and the more that I played, the more that I've been here, that I've realized the stuff that I tell myself, the stuff that I read, the stuff that I pay attention to, was saying it or not saying it has an effect mentally and emotionally on me. So even if I wasn't reading it, or someone like tagged me on Twitter about it, or someone texted me, "Oh, did you see Jay said this?" or there's stuff out about this, or whatever. I really just try to mute that and block that out. When I first met Tim, he always gave me this went through his like quarterback notes and what he thinks about the position and how he coaches it. And one of the first things he always told me was the silence and noise. And I remember Coach Day telling me about that as well, because Coach Day was with Philly with Bradford, and there was games where Philly fans were bad too, and they were just killing Bradford. And he told me there was times where Sam came in the facility like he saw a ghost or something. And just like it's real easy to get caught up into all that stuff, because it's just everyone has access to giving their opinion to and what they think. And at first I wouldn't say it was bothering me, but I was letting it infiltrate my mind space, and letting it be something that I was letting be told to me. So everyone that was trying to tell me about this or that, I don't want to hear about that stuff anymore. Or on Twitter, Instagram, I only get notifications from people that I follow, and then I don't even look at football stuff on social media, just because it's just so many different opinions and so many different stuff that can be said, or different people saying this or different people saying that, and you can't defend yourself for everybody. So I didn't look at it.
Eventually, you just got to go and play. But I am like, even at my age, stuff that would bother you if something says like that would annoy me, and then I look at my sons who are your age, like, it would really bother me at that age. So that's why I wondered if there was and if you felt it even from, when did you feel it from Jay?
I talk to Darius about all the time. Darius is really active on
Yes, he is.
I was like, bro, you can't look at that shit, man. And it's like, bro, but you're human, I'm human. I know I'm human, and that it's easy to look at the social media, and when you're playing well and everyone loves you, and then when you're playing bad or your team isn't good, everyone hates you.
Yes.
And it's easy to look at stuff when it's good, but when it's bad, you can't just I remember being in college, and we lost to Iowa, and JT opened his phone, so next to him, and he's getting ripped on Twitter and Instagram, and he tells me, he told me, I learned it from him. I delete all my social media apps before the game, and I don't download it to the day after.
Really?
And I don't even look at that stuff. And I felt like that helped, because Ohio State, you don't really have bad games.
Right.
You may have one or two tough games, and maybe a game when you get upset or something like that. And people are always praising you, and then when it's bad, it's like everyone's throwing the tomatoes.
And that was a week after beating Penn State too, where he was a star.
Yeah. So that's just, this is the highs and lows of the game, man. It's just, even with Case, and after during the Bears game, when Case had the game he had, he told me man, it's a grown man's league, and it's tough. And he had a tough game, and I had some tough games versus the Giants, and had to pick first the Vikings, and it's real easy to get into it like a hole, and it's really hard to dig yourself out. And I began to feel myself digging myself in a hole, so then I decided to be positive for me, have better energy in what I'm looking into, what I'm reading, what I'm allowing myself to be in my world, and this is something that not everybody can be able to look yourself in the mirror and tell them.
And last thing, how much did Alex, does he help having someone like that to talk to, or is that something more on your own?
That's more on my own. I think the biggest thing with Alex is just how to be a quarterback, and everyone says they know how to, and playing quarterback since I was 10 years old, so it isn't like it's something I've never done before. But just hearing it from different people, because no one has the tricks to the trade and the keys to everything and tips to everything. Everybody does things differently. So, it's good to hear from him, someone I respect, someone that I've watched growing up, and I think he's a great football player. And he's willing to extend himself to me, so why not use him as a resource?
After this break, I'll be back to answer your mailbag questions, including a lot of talk about Bruce Allen, a new coach, and even Steven Sims. Okay, and now it's time for your mailbag questions. And it's not necessarily a therapy session, but there is a lot of angst still here that you can sense, obviously. So let's get right to it. Mario Ruiz, at Mario Ruiz, wants to know, are the wins hurting the chances of Bruce Allen getting fired? This crossed my mind after we won on Sunday. Would hate to root for losses, but need to get rid of him. Mario, nobody knows for sure unless you're talking to owner Dan Snyder. What I know, based on conversations with high-ranking officials, is that Snyder considers this the worst season of his tenure. And we know that all aspects of the organization will be evaluated. That obviously includes Bruce Allen. What I don't know is, who will Snyder be seeking advice or guidance from in order to best evaluate the Redskins from a football operation? I have no clue what it would take for him to make changes. And what would those changes be? Would it be reassigning? Would it be firing? Would it be stripping of duties? I don't know. Would it take 2 more losses, 4 ugly ones? Will someone tell him to evaluate the 10 years as a whole and not just this year's finish? When he fired Vinny Serrato, the final nail, really, from my understanding, was the Zorn fiasco. He blamed Serrato for that hiring, and that's what ultimately cost him his job. If Snyder talks to more people who tell him it's one thing to have hired Jay Gruden, it was another thing to give him an extension and then keep him for almost 6 years, then yeah, a couple more wins I don't think will change anything in terms of the big picture. But I would also say you should want the young guys to play well. And if they're winning because Dwayne Haskins is really showing progress, I don't know how that's a bad thing. Keep in mind that even with Allen, I do believe they would have had a couple 10-win seasons with a better overall coaching staff in the previous 4 years. Not saying that Allen should be kept because of that, but I'm just trying to maintain a level of perspective, which I think is kind of needed these days. And again, I don't know with Allen if it would be a reassigning, if there's anything that would happen. I've heard all sorts of things over the last year. And then, I think with if they wanted to reassign him, then it comes down to contract. How does this contract, what is the terms it spells out, if there's a reassignment, et cetera, would he then ask to be let go? I don't know any of that. But I think anything has to be on the table when you've been this bad this year. And not just this bad, but with the fan base feeling the way it is, the anger that's directed at the franchise, that doesn't feel like it's going to go away anytime soon. Anyways, Jason at DAS Smurf wants to know thoughts on if there's a possibility that the Redskins hire Ron Rivera. And of course, Jason knows that, like everybody else does, that Rivera was fired by the Panthers this week, but I have no idea if they would hire him. I think the guy was just fired, so it's really hard to say, but I'd be surprised if someone in the NFL doesn't hire him as a head coach. There are a lot of Redskins fans turning their noses up at him, but keep in mind he took over a 2-14 team and had them in the NFC Championship game in his 3rd year and the Super Bowl in his 5th. Yes, they've struggled since. Some of that is injuries to quarterback Cam Newton, kind of a big deal. You look at Sean Payton in New Orleans, and before this latest really strong run that they had 3 straight years of 7-9. So don't lose perspective on a coach just because of recency bias. The guy did a good job there early on. Now, is he a really good coach? I don't have a lot of deep insight into him as a coach. I've heard good things. I haven't done the research to know more. Would he be the answer? I don't know. Should he be looked at? Of course he should be looked at. He's a guy who has won in the NFL, and he's considered a good leader. And what I've heard is that they'd like someone who has been a head coach before, someone who is a strong leader, because that's a trait absolutely needed in that building, and I think they know that. Gruden was not a strong leader. The Redskins under Dan Snyder have often hired the opposite of what they've had. They need a strong, disciplined, detail-oriented coach. I don't know that would dismiss anybody if there hadn't been a head coach, but I think that's something that would probably be very valued. One assistant I've heard who fits that bill is Eric Bieniemy with Kansas City. That's a guy that I would definitely look at as well. And this isn't about finding a great play caller. I don't even think he's calling the plays in Kansas City. It's about finding a coach who can impact culture because of their leadership and set a tone for the organization. And, that's what I think they really need. So if Rivera fits that, then you have to look at him. It might be somebody else, but I think that's something that has to be put on the table. At the Real World, we always hear about it's Dan's decision on Bruce Allen's fate. How much power or influence, if any, do the minority owners have in this decision? They can't be happy with low attendance and low TV ratings. I've heard that the minority owners actually like Bruce Allen. He has saved the franchise a lot of money with his decisions. So, Allen also can be very personable when he wants. So I think, that's why he's A lot of people consider him a politician. That fits well with minority owners. But I think it's the other owners in the NFL that probably can't be happy with the low attendance and ratings. I feel pretty safe in saying that. This is a flagship franchise, and I can almost guarantee you they're looking at Washington and wondering what the hell is going on. It hurts them. So I think that could have an influence on anything if there's pressure from the league or other owners to say, Dan, you got to do something because it's not working there. We can't, the league can't have a franchise like this drawing what it is and really looking really bad for the league. All right, Nilo at Big DHTTR wants to know, how appealing do you think the Redskins job is compared to other openings? Seems like there's a good core of young talent compared to other teams. If it could fix the front office, could be a dream job. Agree? I think you got to slow down on the dream job part there, pal. Let's not go there at this point. But the only other opening right now is Carolina. They have a relatively new owner, so I don't know enough about him to say that this job is better or worse. I think that's a big part of this, of course. The optimistic side for Washington, I think this is what you're obviously latching onto. The Redskins do have a good deal of young talent to build around. I want to say it's something like, I think there were like 20 players, 25 or younger, who played key roles last week against Carolina on both sides of the ball. That's impressive. Now, not all of them are going to mature into stars or whatever, but there is a core of young talent that I think you can develop, especially on defense. And I think offensively there's more questions, but defensively you have a definite strong young core. They need Haskins to be someone other that another coach would want. For $5 to $7 million a year, I think any prospective coach would tell Snyder that, yeah, they love Dwayne Haskins. If they don't like him, I don't think they're going to interview here. I think that's a lock. Fixing the front office is a rather big deal, though, and they need to strengthen the pro personnel side, among other things. But they'd also be coming here at a time when Snyder has definitely stepped away more than ever, except for drafting the quarterback, of course. And he will still spend if that's what's required. So I'm not going to go to a dream job situation here. I think there's a lot that has to be fixed, but I think it could be a better situation if you strip away some of the other aspects, and just in terms of the roster and what you have to work with. But the quarterback is a massive key, so he's got to show improvement, continued improvement down the stretch to really be at that point. Matty Suzuki at Matty Suzuki wants to know, why would a coach with any self-esteem consider working for Dan and Bruce? Easy, Matt. Money. And the fact is that this is one of 32 such jobs. Don't ever ignore that part. These guys are not fans. They're people who want jobs. They know that they could go from $1 million a year to $5 to $6, $7 million a year. If it's all guaranteed money, that's a lot of change to set you up for a lifetime and your family up for a lifetime. That's why they would take the job. And these guys also have huge egos and convince themselves they can work anywhere. Now, if you have choices, then you can say no thanks. I've heard of some guys who I believe would be candidates who would not come here because of the setup. I've talked to agents who have guys who coach who say they would not send their guys here because of the setup and because they don't want Bruce Allen in charge of personnel. Some big names there. But I also know it's one thing to say that in November, another to say it when presented an offer in January, especially if other teams don't want you like you had hoped. It's a risk for guys to say no to a job thinking that they'll get a job next year. The fans or media might view it that way, but I don't believe that a lot of coaches would feel the same way. Now let's get on to some just player questions. John Quick at jquick93 wants to know, Steven Sims seems to be getting more playing time with Trey Quinn having a concussion. Do you see Sims being featured more? Yes, I do. And even before the concussion, Sims was starting to get more than Quinn against Carolina. I'd say it's warranted without a doubt. There are areas that Quinn is better. He can run routes from more spots. That creates more versatility. He's a better blocker. And some of Sims' inability to help there has hurt at times. But when I've rewatched the last two games, I see Sims killing guys off the line. He wins one-on-one much quicker than Quinn does. Go back and watch a couple plays against Carolina. The pass in the red zone in which Dwayne Haskins tried to hit Kelvin Harmon. By the way, I like the decision, love the throw, no issues there. But go back and see how well Sims got open. He's in the left slot, just destroys his guy. He was a third or fourth option on the play, but that's not the point. Watch him. That could be something in the future to see in the red zone. Later in the game, on a 3rd and 2 in which Haskins missed him after a sort of a mini scramble, Sims had caused his defender to fall down with his route. I mean, he twisted him around. I was talking to a player the other day, and his comment was, We need to find a way to involve Sims more. Yes, they do. So I could see more happening there. Finally, Edris at Captain PH Ageria wants to know, what are your thoughts on Montez Sweat's performance so far this season? Prior to the season, expectation for him was high, but now people are not really speaking highly of him as much. Was a trade-up even worth it? Well, Edris, Sweat is playing better lately and coming off his most productive pass rush day with 1.5 sacks. Now, keep in mind that was coming from the left side, but both those, the sacks, the half sack and the full sack, came when a tight end was trying to block him and he won with ease. That's still good to see. That's what you want to see. I like how he's played the run. I do think it takes time for pass rushers to mature, without a doubt. They have to learn how to time things up. You have to learn how he's got length. They need to let him play with his length. And I think because that's a strength of his. And I think there's sometimes you could see early in the year where he was thinking quite a bit on his rushes. I do think if they moved him to a 4-3, he could be a really good right end. That's just a personal opinion. I would also say it's way too early to say whether it was worth it or not. I think we've got to see how he matures over the next year or two before we reach that point. Okay, with that, it's off to the food talk and Chef Mel. And since we're headed to Green Bay this weekend, I talk a little bit about brats, and then Chef Mel gives a stuffed salmon recipe and a burger recipe that I think you're going to want to hear. All right, back with Chef Mel, and we're coming off, we had Thanksgiving a week ago, Redskins going up to Green Bay, and I learned something before we came on here, that Chef Mel's not a brats guy or a cheese guy.
Not at all.
Not at all. So I'll give you, I'm going to ask Mel in a minute about some holiday stuff, but my little brats thing, and I love brats, Midwest guy, love brats. And I do it like before Ohio State whipped up on Michigan's ass. I always do like a little tailgate with brats. So I boil it, and it's a Wisconsin thing. You boil it in beer. I use a dark beer, but then you throw in onions. You throw some red pepper flakes, so it flavors up the onions. So then after 10 minutes, you take the brats, put them on the grill for about 10 minutes, and then you top it with the onions.
Flavor.
Then you top it with the onions that have been soaking in the beer. And it's like
goodness.
that's the way to go. And then you have some of the dark beer too. Not that you cooked him, but that is extra. So anyways, that's my little brats thing. Not going to waste time with Mel on that. But Mel was telling me about some of the things that he was making at Thanksgiving that you can make throughout the Christmas holiday season.
Like, when you're doing your holidays and stuff, you kind of like want to make some meals kind of like to your liking and what you want, other than ham and turkey. I love frying turkeys during the holidays. That's one of my go-tos.
And we'll get more of that when you get close to Christmas, but there's some other things that you were making.
Yeah, so I made a salmon stuffed crab with lump crab meat. So I stuffed the crab meat inside the salmon. Then I put the crab meat on top and had it crusted on top, and I did a lemon butter sauce that I added on top of it. That was amazing. So I did that, and then what else I did? I just did like some shrimp and grits, just different things that I just added on to the menu that I really enjoyed.
With the shrimp and grits, you're not putting cheese on there, are you? Because that's not your thing.
Well, I put a
or
little...
are you? All right, okay, here we go.
I stuck a little bit of cheese on this one.
Okay, because the shrimp and grits with the cheese is really good.
I put a little bit of parm in there. You got to put some parm in there.
Yes.
So I put a parm on some cheddar. Both of those will go well. But I had these sausages, man, from like down south, like the down south.
What
called
kind?
Connect sausage.
What's
Connect? I mean, whoever know about Connect, they let us know. So they's a nice, good flavor sausages down south, like Alabama and Mississippi, all them areas. Yeah, they really good. But other than that, you kind of want to just switch them up and kind of like do different meals during the holidays, other than the traditional things that people always. But definitely have a prime roast. You gotta have prime. You gotta have that prime rib. You gotta have that going on. Have that.
When you talk about that sausage, now I know like you're doing red beans and rice. It's typically andouille sausage, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Did you put that connection?
Oh yes,
okay.
Yes. It's similar. Like I said.
Where'd you get that here?
I didn't get that here. I got that shipped to me.
Look at you.
Yeah,
because you're Chef Mel.
Yeah, look, I like to get stuff imported in and stuff like that. Things that people can't get to. I want. So that's one thing I love, just getting different things that people don't. Even with seasonings, I get my seasonings sometimes from different areas because I just want to be different and have different flavors going on.
Yeah,
what you get in your grocery store.
Well, it's funny because like the regions are so different with what they use for ingredients and all that. What's your favorite region? Did you have or?
We don't really have one. We don't have one at all. But I do say, like I said, I basically go with different flavors out the different seasons that I like to use.
How are you finding these flavors? Are you reading up on them?
Nah, I mix them all together.
Yeah.
John, listen, it's all
well,
about.
I know, but like if there's some things that.
It's about combining them all together. Like you put that beer inside that broth,
yes,
and you put all that's flavor.
Well, it is, because then you experiment with the different kinds of beer too.
Now, you know, you gotta make me some now, man, because that sounds real good though.
Yeah, they are really good.
I'm not really into it, but I will do it. You know, I eat it one time.
And if you get it like before the broths split, so you don't want the stuff shooting out. You don't want the juices coming out, but it is really good. And then put the onions on there too that have been soaking in there.
Just magic, just going all everywhere.
Yeah, you don't want that. You don't want that. But with the stuffed crab and the salmon, how long are you cooking that?
Oh man, you want to cook the salmon for about like good 15 minutes. It don't take long to cook that, but you want to actually get the crust and the inside of the crab kind of like baked in it. Yeah, you want to bake that in there, so it don't take long. You don't want to overcook your salmon either. You know, you want to have it, you know, you want to just have the temperature just right and just, you know, let it rest. Take it out, let it rest, and let them juices come out. And man, oh man, you got you a bad old salmon with some crab in it. And I mean, like, because I mix the flavor. I don't put like a lot of breadcrumbs in my crab.
Okay.
And that's something I just don't do even with my crab cakes. But I actually just, you know, add a little bit just to put it together a little bit, and then add my sauce. It's all about the sauce. You got to have a sauce with the salmon.
Sure.
I like to use teriyaki on my salmon, different things. But other than that, man, like, you know, just eat what you want, different things that you want to be creative with. And that's what I like to do. I just do creative different things other than making turkey and ham on the holidays.
You watch a lot of cooking shows?
Oh, I love, man. I watch Chop a lot. I watch, I just be into like whatever I could catch. And I love them all. I like beat Bobby Flay. I want to beat him one day.
Okay.
I'll be kind of thinking like, man, I want to beat that guy one good time. But you know, it's all about like the difference of when you're doing that is about competition. Is about being creative and different flavors. That's all it is about. It's about you could have your original flavor, something like you know from when you was a kid, and that can help you win. You know, so that's how that works sometimes.
You know, I like the barbecue pitmasters, even though it's not on anymore. I watch the old shows.
Oh, I did too, man. I was trying to learn a little something from them guys, man.
No, those guys are good.
They was good. They know what they doing with that barbecue.
What was like with? Is there a barbecue sauce that you like to make that goes with anything that you're?
Not really. I don't really like using too much barbecue sauce. I like to use seasonings.
I like dry. I'm more of a dry guy.
I want to taste the meat. Yes. I want to taste the flavors all in there. Now, don't get me wrong. The sauce that kind of enhance it, make it a little better too. But I'm all about the seasonings, man. Yeah. You put all that work in there. You want to taste that meat. You want to see it smoked, and you want to see how. Oh man, you got me all hyped up about that one.
The worst place I went to is this place in Chantilly one time, and I won't say it, but like they got the ribs there, and they slathered it with sauce, and I'm like, but they did that because they had no flavor otherwise, man. And I could tell right away, it's like this is the only reason you put that, and there's like I'm not doing that.
Yeah, you drizzling all that sauce on it, you taking away from the ribs and whatever else meat that you have on there. I'm not about that. Yeah. Now you gotta try my burger out too. Now I got
burger.
I got a good burger that's good.
Give me. Let's give it up right now.
Some red onions that you add into the mix. Mix it up, and then you flavor it, and you put seasoning in it. And you flavor your burger. Use that Angus beef. Oh my goodness.
What when you're putting flavors in there? Because I think a big mistake people make with their burgers, they don't flavor the inside. So
that's what I do. I flavor the inside. So I want to flavor my inside, and then I top it off on the outside with a little bit of seasoning, and I use a little bit of a Mexican seasoning I use with that too on top. I'll tell you more about that.
Okay, well, what's the one or two ingredients you're going to put inside to flavor?
Definitely salt and pepper you're going to add, and some Dijon mustard, just a little, like about a tablespoon of that, and definitely got to use an egg to hold it together, and I'll use a little bit of ketchup too.
I'll use some Worcestershire sauce.
I use that too.
Garlic. Yeah. Garlic and some onion powder, but I also put a little.
Hey, you been in my recipe book, man?
I think you know what else? You've been in there. But you know what else I put in there? Some brown sugar, light brown sugar. Oh. Because that gives it some flavor. And then sometimes what I'll do too is like, this isn't necessarily the best thing because it can lead it to. You don't want it like falling apart and like that. But like what I'll do is I'll also saute mushrooms and onions in the butter, and I'll drizzle some of that on top of it. Now, because if you do too much of it, it's going to fall apart, and it's not good.
Yeah, I had mine fall apart a couple times.
Yeah, no, you don't want to do it. But you do a little bit just to add some flavor, and then I also flavor on the top, on the outside, because I just like I remember watching a cooking competition one time, and somebody was, I think it was Top Chef, where like they didn't flavor the burgers, and I was screaming at the TV.
Oh man, that happens. And then some like, and when you flavor it, and then sometimes like it fall apart, you be like, oh man, all that flavor.
Right.
It just, I make mistakes, guys.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not perfect. I make some mistakes, but in the kitchen, you want to just go back in there and just figure out what you did wrong, and it's gonna come out much better.
And I'll stuff it sometimes. I'll stuff it sometimes with cheese. Sometimes with cheese.
But not like, I think you love cheese a lot, man.
I do use some of it, but I don't eat a lot of it. But I will cook with it sometimes in various recipes because it fits.
Same here.
I don't eat a lot of it.
Same here. I love to put a little bit of cheese in different recipes, but I try to stay away from it as much as possible. I mean, guys, no offense to the cheeseheads and people that love cheese. I'm trying to be a little bit healthier on my side of things, and I feed these guys out here at Redskin Parks, these players, and I want to make sure they eat good and clean.
There we go. I think we'll end on that note, Mel.
Yes, sir.
All right. Talk to you next week.
Yes, sir.
That's it for this week. I want to thank Dwayne Haskins for joining me for a conversation about Alex Smith. I hope you enjoyed that. And thank you for your mailbag questions. And as always, thanks to Chef Mel for dropping some food knowledge. Talk to you next week.